Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and today we're starting a series for the game Obduction. This is a 2017 game, and if I put the video out, you may have already seen that I spent 45 minutes messing with the video settings and playing this game. And it was with high dynamic range, uh, color graphics enabled, and the audio for this game is incredibly quiet. So for that reason, I figured it's important to restart and start again. So this may be the first video you see. I may not have even bothered to publish the other one. Uh, this is the beta, also 1.6 of Obduction through Steam, which you can get, and I'm hoping that improves the run of the whole game in general. Uh, there is still a issue I will get to, and before there was a NVIDIA HDR and NVIDIA MSR, I believe it was here. Not anymore in the beta. They've completely eliminated some of the visual options, probably for the better. It auto detects everything to Epic, so I'll leave it there, and it leaves my texture memory at 25% and everything else. You can also now lower the field of view lower than 90 degrees. The issue with this game, though, is not so much about actually the graphics, unless I push it too far. Like, there are some ways I can make the graphics look pretty bad, but it really has more to do with the fact that this is a game built to be more of a VR game, and because of that, it has this point-and-click navigation type, and it feels like, even though this is made in the Unreal Engine, it's made by a company named Cyan, and they haven't made a game in a really long time. They're the creators of Myst. This is kind of the spiritual successor reboot of their company. For many, many years, they've just been reselling copies and new versions of Myst. And it's not a terrible thought for them to cut their teeth on actually making a different game, because then they can work out the kinks of Unreal Engine 4 without having to play it, having to mess up this game. Gamma is a setting you might need to adjust in brightness if this looks particularly dark. These rocks that are floating here. Otherwise, I think most of the game is actually particularly light. I'll be playing on the controller and Xbox One controller, and we're going to start again. Apologies if the audio is a lot louder on this series than it is on any of my other series ever. This may just be the new level of volume. I had to do so much to get the audio up. It sounded perfectly fine in my ears, but it was really, really quiet. Speaking of audio settings, I suppose it's also pointing out there's levels of audio quality that I just don't know what that means, but we'll leave it on high. Let's begin. So the games want a name. I don't know why it wants a name, but we'll give it. And this is probably the 9th time. We'll do free roam. There is a character shadow you can use, and the menus still suffer from a problem where if you're using the controller, you can't just press left or right to adjust things. You have to hit A, switch. So you can have a male shadow, you can have a female shadow, you can just have it off. The shadows, at least in the previous version of this game, the version that's actually the default version, didn't actually line up with your feet, so they looked awkward anyways, because you can't look down and see your feet, and so that adds some weirdness. And then the point and click navigation type I'll show later. The menus seem like they might be slightly more navigable now, though, because in the previous version you couldn't actually get to the play button with a controller. You had to use the mouse. This time I've actually been able to navigate to the beginning of the actual game with just the controller, which is actually an amazing improvement. I've also turned down the cursor there's this dot that shows up in the middle. They start you with, here's how you get to the settings. So there's also a photo mode you can do by pressing Y. You can take pictures. If you hit Alt F2, you can bring up NVIDIA Ansel, which is this screenshot built-in tool. You can't really control anything now that you're in the game, but you can add certain effects and just do some things that are basic for like movies or Photoshop if you wanted to do that. But once you're done, you're back in the game. So 2 separate screenshot tools. You would think this game was a little bit more pretty than what I've seen so far for it. And even in the graphics, for the trouble that I've seen on the forums that people have had, even people with 1080 Titans, like a 1080 Ti NVIDIA graphics card, still not being able to get past some issues. I think some of that has to do with hitching though, because there is some hitching that happens and it has nothing to do with the graphics.
Everything.
Let's listen to this.
Everything but our stories. And they shouldn't be forgotten. I was 3. It was April of 1983. Cecil, it was 1870 for you. Sam, you tell it like it was yesterday, but it's been 62 years since you saw that blast of light.
So 1870 wouldn't have these in camping grounds.
Light. That's where all of our news stories began. It streaked across the sky, mesmerizing, but unnerving. Even in daylight, Joseph, you said it was gloriously bright. But in the twilight, it was spellbinding. Whether it was in the deep woods like Cecil or right outside town like Jane and Jenny, we were drawn to see more.
So I might be Cecil.
All smiling. Some of you were alone. I wasn't.
But I might just be a new character.
As if with some forebearer of good fortune. Grandma lifted me from the carriage on the porch and walked into the yard so we could watch it unobstructed. None of us understood. But, well, we followed. And we all felt some kind of trepidation, yet attraction. So we approached it, and it approached us.
So when it breaks up the sentence here, it's actually doing a little bit of a trick where it will cut to the next line of dialogue in one of those breaks, I think, so that as long as you had continued to walk. Take a moment to notice the sound of the forest and the music. None of that was audible the first time I played this, and it really changes the experience. So when you walk into this part, it'll lock you into a point where you can't move anymore. Now I'm locked in. You can turn around.
Oh, remember, there was no turning away.
There actually is turning away.
It advanced, almost like purposefully spinning slowly until, well, it found us, each of us. We should tell these stories because it saved us and it must be.
And so you get abducted, or at least transported. guess being transported against your will, is abduction. And so you're in this cave, and parts of the trees around you were taken, and this acorn-looking device taken, this lantern, this range. But then you walk into this part, and you're in a completely different desert. You can hear the wind and the footsteps. By the way, you can left click and go into run mode, but it's not going to be necessary really too much. Like, this is a slow puzzle adventure game. I don't think we're going to be running from enemies, or the only time we would run around is just to speed things up. So now the music cuts in. First time I played this, didn't hear the music, didn't hear the footsteps. The game sounded completely silent, and that's frankly half of the environment building. You have your visuals and your audio. That's kind of all you can do in games. People don't have like extra senses. We can't smell the world. We can't taste the world. Not yet, at least. You may have a controller that has a force feedback or vibrator in it, but the games barely use that, or they don't use it very effectively. We're starting to see that we are not on Earth anymore. We are on, well, I guess maybe that's Earth over there. We're on a different planet. Well, if Earth is over there, then we must be on some kind of hidden planet. Welcome to Hunrath. So, I'm supposed to have a cursor, but it's not actually showing up. Which is kind of funny because I was trying to turn off the cursor, and now I've figured a way to do it by glitch, I think.
Shora, ni hao. Welcome to Hunrath. My name is Joseph. I am the mayor here. You are most probably a bit confused and disoriented, but let me reassure you, everything will be fine. You're not the first to go through this experience. The others who have come before you will help you adjust. Follow the trail to the house with the white picket fence. Fali will meet you there and introduce you to your new life here.
So, this video is a reference to Myst, which had full motion video in magical books, and it was glitchy like this. Actually, in this instance, it kind of makes no sense at all. Like, a modern game could have full motion video that just looked perfectly fine in the game, and it wouldn't be too bad. And this device certainly seems like it would be able to not glitch out like that, but maybe it's broken. See, now we're back into some silence, and we're in our first area. Got these purple mountains, and got this. Got a laser beam over there. We've got some rail tracks. We've got some shimmering rocks. They're also making a sound. We're supposed to go over here to the house with the white picket fence. So we met Joseph, and he tells us to go this way. And we'll hit first thing. My cursor has decided to completely be gone, which is going to make it hard to interact with things because there's supposed to be a little white circle in the middle. When you right click, the right circle even moves. So if I am to interact with things, I'll just have to walk up to things and hit the button multiple times. So that's fine. That works. We should see a little bit of a hitch as we walk up here. We did in the 1.5 version. No, we didn't. Interesting. They did fix some of the hitches or just kind of move them in this new beta, but in the final version of the beta, I would like it to really be completely working. Farley at 1436. Just a white picket fence with grass. It's kind of questionable how the grass would still be alive and how these plants would still be alive. It's actually quite interesting if you turn down the foliage in this game. If you have a low-powered graphics card, this will turn from all of the green grass you see here to a completely barren desert, which is frankly a little shocking. So it feels like some kind of force is keeping the plants and the environments from interacting. Read her mail to Caroline or whoever else might come back. It has been 5 days and not a soul has returned, as I am inclined to believe that things have not gone well. First, surprisingly, I am still alive, and that both supremely perplexes me and gives me some portion of hope. I have retreated to my vault for protection and to contemplate my options. CW. So, there's a mysterious CW, there's Farley, and there's Joseph. We're on an alien planet. We don't know what's happening. Very much like how Myst started. See if this knocks it. No. Sadly, you have some game-breaking lack of physics still. There's a whole NVIDIA technology just built around flapping fabrics in the wind that you're supposed to be able to interact with, yet it's not here. Of course, this was a Kickstarted game made by a company that hasn't really made anything new in probably about 25 years. So the fact that they even got this far, like they got to a finished product, even if it may be a little buggy, and is overly focused on being VR. This came out certainly right as VR was feeling like it was going to be the big thing. Farley's Community Center. Warning, do not approach anything that even remotely resembles this diagram unless it has been disabled. Okay. Then you have some very low graphics reflections of this in the mirrors, but you can't see yourself in the mirror. Doesn't look great, but I think it look a little bit better in this version than the previous version. It still looks very cartoony though. And all boarded up. And it just kind of is a circle. Just ends in this desert. So to me it feels like possibly this entire purple section is the alien spaceship, or it may just be, well, no, the alien planet. Or it may be just a giant portion of some other place that was taken and brought here. And then the desert was brought probably from Earth to be a smaller sphere. And then this house was a smaller sphere. And we arrived in an even smaller sphere. So it might even be a factor of these acorns not having as much power as they used to be capable of having. See what Farley has to say.
Hi, I'm Farley. I guess if you're seeing this, then I wasn't able. Just in case. Welcome. But it's probably not safe here. To be blunt, we're getting ready for a battle. I don't know what you'll find. I just thought I should. Just be cautious. With who you trust. CW may be here. I don't know. Just be careful. I've got to go. See you soon. And don't panic. As jarring as this experience is, you really will find Hunrath to be a decent place.
So it seems like Hunrath was a decent place for a while, and now it isn't. And there's some kind of recorder somewhere lets people record for these devices that they've figured out that technology. I guess we'll find other pieces of technology like that. So we've got a bit of an intrigue happening. And this gives you the indication that there were either kids in, even get that metal sound, there were either kids in this place when it started and when it was brought over, or maybe they even had children as they lived here. Being displaced is not something a lot of first world country people would used to. There, that might have been a little bit of a hitch. The thing about the hitching is actually if you trigger it and then you walk back and forth, you'll just trigger it again. Yes. So here's an example of the hitch that this game has. And as best as I can tell, it's a just poor implementation of not loading areas that are right in front of you. And the only real way you can get this, let's up a little bit, I'll actually get it because I can, is if you went to point and click mode, then you'll have these beacons for where you can walk. And they're clearly for the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive, both of which this game completes. And then when you click it, it's just a smooth transition to stop motion sickness that you don't control. So I'm just pressing forward, it just walks. And when you have that, I don't think you'll see the hitch. Well, no, because there, just right there, there's a hitch. So even in the smooth transition, it's not fully fixed. This game literally is getting, this beta is like released, I think as of today I'm recording, and it still needs work. Maybe if you did instant, you wouldn't get a hitch, but then this is rather jarring to have to just press forward and then instantly be there. That's definitely going to cause you motion sickness if you're playing in VR. Probably would even cause you motion sickness if you were not. You can of course turn up node visibility if you need that too. And then you can do fade, which is like halfway through smooth and instant, but the little fade might help you blink your eyes and not get motion sick. However, like, unless there's an iPad or a cell phone version of this game, which I think there might be an iPad version of this game, none of these point and click interfaces make any sense. They don't they don't look right at all. That cursor is just missing. So sadly, either I wait for the next patch or I put up with a little bit of this. And I think I'll just put up. As long as I can get the other things to work. The toy truck. And here you have a very typical pick up, put back function, but there's no interacting with it. Oh, I guess you have to hold the button down. Interact. So you can also use the left and right trigger to interact with things. Don't really see anything on this fire truck, though. If there was supposed to be any trick or secret here. I might also be crazy, but it feels like sometimes this game, in the 9 times I've rebooted, it feels like sometimes the dialogue changes, or there's something that I find that I didn't see before. This is almost certainly just because I ran through it 9 times and didn't play it with full attention. But there might be some trickery going on where it slightly changes. You stand near this and get the sunlight, you can actually see some little white speckles of dust in the air. It's rather interesting. But then dust like that often will misanimate and look like a ray of sunlight just out of nowhere. Now when I'm walking up here, it'll be interesting to see if I hit a lag on this side. Now there's no zoom, and it seems kind of silly that there isn't a zoom. Unless perhaps in camera mode you... Nope. And by the way, if you take any photos, they just end up here. Which, you know what, I bet the photo mode is going to prove to be very useful when we actually get to a puzzle. We're still kind of just wandering around and getting our bearings. Yosef said we would be fine after being abducted, and immediately we're told we're not fine. I will repeat a criticism, though. I feel like if you're going to be abducted, we need a main character, and that doesn't kind of work with their idea of doing a... Wait a minute, did I turn on the Kickstarter backers things? Yes, backer reward display. Back to that. These names might be people in the game, or they might be Kickstarter backers. So I want to turn that off just in case. But yeah, you need a character that actually feels like they care. Now, in the previous version, the game would always hitch walking down here. And that was my main spot for testing it. Now the game hitches when you walk a couple feet more this direction. And it's when it's going up instead of going down. But it's the exact same place. And it clearly has to do with how they break up the map. Not all of this map is actually loaded with all of the physics that you will have right next to you and all of the graphics. There'll be layers of detail or levels of detail that are different. That's so your video card can save some memory. See, this track just goes here to this wall, and this is some kind of force field. It's totally stopping you from going any further. There might also be a sound puzzle, because we're hearing a cricket, and the second game in the Myst series, Riven, has a major sound puzzle. And since I believe I played all the Myst games, kind of know all of their tricks, but they might be subverting that too. They might be implying that there's going to be a puzzle like that, and there really isn't. It's a really good idea for them to make this before they try to make another Myst game, but they kind of need to make another Myst game too. Hopefully Cyan doesn't just disappear for another 25 years, or take 5 years to get Obduction to be a smooth running game. Hopefully they're working towards their next game and they made enough money on this, but they probably didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't sell that well. Here we have Carl Hunrath, and they said this planet was Hunrath, and John Farley and Robert Hartnell. Why are two people buried in the same grave? Then we have Mary Hunrath from 1815, Mama Mary loved by all, and John Hartnell, beloved husband. So these were potentially the first couple to arrive here, kind of like an Adam and Eve, and maybe they had some kids, or maybe they just kind of adopted people. I would assume maybe Carl was their kid. We have a Luther Roscoe. Where are they getting the stone to carve these gravestones? That's a very good question. And why would you spend that much effort to carve the gravestone? There's some things that aren't explained yet, like water, food, air. Like, how are these people surviving? There's no like jump button or either. Closest thing we have is the run, which if you've already been through an area and you already know it's gonna be a problem, run back to where you want to be. Run will only slightly exaggerate the hitching. Like, if I'm running and I hit it and go back, hit it and go back and I hit it. This is the weirdest part. This is how you know it's not programmed right. Even really old games like Metroid Prime kind of knew to, I think Metroid to do this, to load the rooms that were connected to the room you're in. Effectively, this is an invisible door, and this is a room, and over here is a room. And at the very least, you wouldn't want to unload a room. So even if there was a hitch for the first time you get here, there's no explanation, no reason why it's just so aggressively unloading it to the point where it would need to load it again. Like, I'm looking right at it. Why would it unload and then and the hitch point is, I think, in the exact same place. It's not moving. And if you're just walking, it's a lot less noticeable though, because you're not expecting further faster. And that's really the only criticism I can give the game right now for so far as I've played it. Sadly, I've spent quite a lot of time to just get to this point, and I think it works. There's no saving, but there's loading. Seems odd. I'm pretty sure this laser is what's making the shield, and so we'll probably have to turn off the shield at some point. And our main goal is just to kind of wander around. So there are a couple games I've already covered that you might want to check out. Gone Home is a game where you're in a house walking around trying to figure out what happened, and it will be very similar to this, but it will tell probably a more personal and very possibly better story than this, but that's just a guess. And then also you might consider The Witness, where The Witness is you end up on an island that's full of puzzles and you are just solving all the puzzles and there really is no story. I think we'll probably find that this is kind of in the middle between those two, and it might outdo both of those games in what it wants to do. We kind of need to get into the story. The intro's a little weak. It needed a reason for me to care about the main character, like feel their fear as they're getting abducted. And then I'm not sure about the holograms. It might have been better if we just had some live action actors actually in the game talking to people, which is something that the later Myst games actually did have, is real people in the room talking to you, live full motion video. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.